Okay, the recording has started. So as I was saying, I really want to open your mind up to all the opportunities and possibilities that commercial transaction pertains to, because like I said, usually this course has a very negative perception for whatever reason, maybe past students, just spreading false rumors. And that's what I want to change, especially with this first class, so that we can start off on the right footing. And I want to give you examples in terms of things that are happening right now in the contemporary commercial space, so that you can appreciate all the opportunities that are available and all the areas where some of you might find yourselves hoping that, of course, you do take on, this direction in your career, in your legal career. And I was talking about this venture of Safaricom into Ethiopia, and for those of you who have been following, like I was saying, this is probably one of the biggest, deals in the region where private entities have come together, with government and public entities to invest in Ethiopia and to build their telecommunications, infrastructure, because Ethiopia, being the second most populous country in Africa, there's a big market there. If you think about how their telco industry or sector has developed, it has not moved the strides that we have moved in Kenya, and therefore it's a virgin nascent market, and of course that's why Safaricom is very keen on venturing there. The population is almost 3 times that of Kenya, and the government has had a stronghold on so many of the sectors of the economy, including the telco sector. And that's why they have not really developed, they have not really moved the way we have moved. There is not much innovation. But now with Safaricom venturing into that particular region, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of anticipation in terms of how Safaricom and M-Pesa, more specifically, will be able to change how business is done, create jobs, create innovation. Of course, for us in Kenya, we know what M-Pesa has done in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of creating job opportunities, creating innovation, and solutions to some of our commercial challenges. So that is the vision that Safaricom has, and of course, very big deal to get the license, $850 million US just for the license, and just very recently they paid 20.5 billion for M-Pesa. So the license to operate there as a telco, 850 million US. License to operate an M-Pesa, 20.5 billion Kenya shillings. So in terms of the capital investment, huge figures. But why am I talking about all this? I'm talking about this because behind the scenes, this huge deal would not have been possible if it wasn't for the commercial firms, the commercial lawyers that are behind the scenes, organizing, doing the due diligence, drafting the contracts, negotiating the conditions and terms. If you think about the big firms that have come together, we have Vodafone from UK, Vodacom from South Africa, CDC Group from the UK, Sumitomo from Japan. You can imagine these big companies being brought together for this one venture. Of course, the legal, aspect of it, monumentous, because you can imagine the contracts, you can imagine the negotiations, you can imagine all the licenses and approvals that have to be first obtained. And all this is work that is being done by law firms. And of course, in Kenya, we have some of the biggest law firms that are part of this deal, including law firms from the UK and law firms from these other jurisdictions coming together. So you can imagine how many legal minds are working behind the scenes to make sure a deal like this actually is successful. So all the legal obligations, statutory obligations, licenses, approvals, before the deal was even signed or inked. I can imagine, I remember reading that, this was almost 5 or 6 years in the making. So this is just one example of some of the really big deals that are being done, and then commercial firms and commercial practitioners being involved in. And of course, when we think of commercial transactions or corporate law, we don't really associate it with a direct impact on the society, because we think it's about big bucks, it's about the guys who are there at the top pocketing all the money. But even commercial transactions, commercial law has the potential to really impact the society and change the society for the better, because you can imagine, Safaricom in a market like this, where they are probably where we were in the year 2000 in terms of development of infrastructure and all the telecom structures that we have here in the country. So it is like a very new nascent market that has so much potential. And of course, M-Pesa, has the ability to change the dynamics of that economy. So even the impact that it will have for the people there on the ground will be massive. So don't think that commercial transactions or commercial law, corporate law doesn't trickle down and have a positive effect on the society. Actually, it does, and in a very big way. So some of the top firms in the country behind this deal, in fact, I do have a couple of students who are, undertaking their pupillage in some of these firms, and they do tell me, how they are flooded with paperwork and reviewing documents and things like that behind the scenes. But this whole, joint venture conglomerate, coming together of all these entities would not be possible if it wasn't for the commercial practitioners behind the scenes, making this happen. So this is just one example. Another example is another example is the banking sector. Another area where there's a lot of activity, a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We have seen our top tier banks venture out into the region. And, Rwanda, DRC, TZ, UG, and this has proved to be a very valuable strategy, because Equity Bank, for example, in the last quarter, when they were, doing their report, they said that the Kenyan subsidiaries have underperformed. And of course, it is understandable with the state of the economy, with the high taxation, with the high interest rates, but they are still doing very well because of the subsidiaries in the region, especially DRC. DRC actually accounted for, I was looking at these figures, around 30% of the profits of Equity Bank in the last quarter, which means that the fact that they have spread out and spread they have not put all their eggs in one basket. They have spread out their risk, has really helped them in as much as our economy is, battling inflation and the high taxation regime. So many other sectors in the country have underperformed, but banking is still up there. But that has been possible because of the numerous mergers and acquisition of banks within the region. And of course, when you think about a bank like Equity, public limited company, has institutional shareholders, individual shareholders, and a lot of Kenyans are shareholders in that company. You can imagine the transaction between Equity and a bank in DRC to the point where Equity acquires that bank. Very recently, they acquired, I've forgotten the name of the bank in DRC. But you can imagine the scale of that transaction. Equity being the largest bank in terms of customer base. And you can imagine the point at which they started the negotiations to acquire this bank. And they did it gradually. First of all, acquired a percentage of the shareholding, eventually went to majority shareholding, until now they fully acquired the bank. I've forgotten the name of the bank, forgive me. But that deal in itself, not possible without the commercial lawyers in the background. And we shall be looking at mergers and acquisitions, and you shall appreciate the work that goes into a merger like this. And a lot of firms are usually engaged. Some are subcontracted to handle specific areas, maybe to look at the approvals, maybe another firm to look at the due diligence aspect to ensure that whatever bank or entities being acquired has got all its structures in place, has no liabilities, has no hidden secrets that will come out in the woodworks later on. So a lot of work, and you can imagine another entity in another jurisdiction where there are different laws, different requirements, different regulations. You can imagine, and I'm sure there are a lot of lawyers going back and forth because of the negotiations and the contracts that need to be signed, the meetings that need to be held, big transactions involving a lot of legal minds. But all of that would not be possible without the commercial lawyers in the background, the commercial firms that are handling all this. So banks, right now, even if you are just to do your own research, probably leading right now in mergers and acquisitions. Same thing with KCB. KCB also doing the same, copying the same narrative, Cooperative Bank, all trying to spread out in the region. It's actually proving to be a very good strategy, so that even if one economy is not doing so well, the bank is overall being propped up by all the other subsidiaries which are doing well in the other economies. Because a country like DRC, again, very similar narrative to Ethiopia. They are really lacking a lot of that banking infrastructure compared to what we have here. But it's a very resource-rich country, a lot of money flowing in the country, but there are no these banking structures to absorb all this money that is flowing. So that's why DRC is one of the more successful subsidiaries for banks, and it's an area that even Safaricom is targeting for future prospects. But this is just to give you an example of what is actually going on right now. A lot of mergers and acquisitions, not only in the banking sector, but in other sectors of the economy. And as we shall see, commercial lawyers, commercial practitioners play a very big role when it comes to successful mergers and acquisitions. And of course, with the African continental free trade area, there will be more mergers in the future. So that's also another area which is going to be big. Of course, if we have free trade in Africa, and of course, we're already seeing the initial steps to actualize that. So another area where you probably might find yourself in the future, mergers and acquisitions. And then, of course, insolvency practice. Allow me to share this picture. On your far left is yours truly. And the gentleman next there in the with the blue folder, that is the official receiver of Kenya. He's called Mr. Mark Gakuru, and he had come to the school last year to give a guest lecture on the role of the official receiver in insolvency in Kenya. And he had come with his team from the Business Registration Service. The lady right there in the middle is called Shigadi Mwakio. She is the Deputy Registrar of the Movable Property Security Rights Registry. We shall be looking at the MPSR as part of the topics in the course outline. And then we have the lady next, the Deputy Official Receiver. And more specifically, I shared this picture because the gentleman on the far right, he's called Idi Pembere. He was a student here in 2020. And now he's doing very well. He's part of the official receiver team. And I think he's even now working with the Office of the Deputy President, if I'm not wrong. But this is just to show you that we have some very young people who, just a few years post-admission are doing very big things. And I shall share with you quite a number of examples just to give you some hint and also to motivate you and to make you see that it is possible for you as well to also venture out there and become extremely successful. So insolvency practice, a lot of activity in that area as well. I'm sure you have been following all these very interesting and intriguing cases, Saiton, Tuskys, Nakumat, Mumias, ARM Cement, Dubai Bank, Imperial Bank, Chase Bank, and all these retailers that have exited the market, including Choppies, including the game. Remember the game? So a lot of companies struggling to stay afloat. Of course, COVID played a big role in destabilizing a lot of companies. A lot of entities shut down, and those that survived, of course, as COVID, slowly we passed that COVID period. Then we entered into the period of high taxation and inflation and high interest rates, again hitting businesses left, right, and center. But the interesting thing is that the law, that is the Insolvency Act, has specifically carved out a niche for professionals, including now advocates, because if you look at Section 6 of the Insolvency Act, it provides that for one to qualify to be an insolvency practitioner, you must be a member of a registered professional body. So accountants, lawyers, auditors, all those guys fit in that category. But you also need to have experience having worked under an insolvency practitioner for at least 2 years. So this is also another area that the law has now carved out and eliminated all the quirks and now made it specifically for professionals. So this is an area where, as newly admitted advocates, you might want to specialize in, because there are not many insolvency practitioners that are registered to practice. And of course, as an insolvency practitioner, you can be an administrator, a liquidator, a receiver, a trustee in bankruptcy, or you could be working for the official receiver, because the official receiver is a department under the Office of the Attorney General. So it does have advocates who practice there, and they do a lot because they handle all matters dealing with insolvency and bankruptcy in the country. They are the ones who license and vet insolvency practitioners. They're the ones who handle all matters dealing with insolvency and bankruptcy, where no private insolvency practitioner has been appointed. They're usually the default liquidators, the default administrators for matters, unless now the parties opt to have their own private insolvency practitioners. So a lot of opportunities here. And if you're very keen, you will find that this area has been now, dominated by just a few insolvency practitioners. And I'm sure if you have been keen, you'll find that in terms of administration or liquidation, it's usually the same names, the same firms for a huge majority of the entities that are undergoing insolvency proceedings. So it is an area that still has a lot of potential because they're just a small clique of insolvency practitioners that are handling probably 95% of all the insolvency cases in the country as we speak. So very lucrative, very interesting, very dynamic area of the law. And we shall be looking at insolvency practice. We shall be looking at bankruptcy and all the processes and procedures that deal with that. In addition to insolvency practice, another area that is now opening up is everything related to climate change, everything related to the environment, sustainability. That is another big area. As you're well aware, there's a lot of climate change, sustainability money that is out there. A lot of entities, a lot of governments in the developed world and even multinationals have pledged money for green projects, for green financing. So this is an area that now is opening up, and it's a new sector where lawyers are now starting to enter and find their footing in. For example, in Kenya, we have the largest wind farm in Africa. Huge deal. Again, we are talking here billions, something like, I have the figures here, 70 billion Kenya shillings, this project alone. And again, it involves a lot of partners, multinationals, a lot of financing institutions to fund the project. So again, behind the scenes, a lot of law firms are engaged. In fact, this particular project, Anjarwala and Kana advocates are behind ALN. They are behind this huge deal. And of course, there are other firms, law firms, which are also behind this deal. Because you can imagine, before a deal like this is inked, the negotiations, the meetings, the paperwork, the agreements, the drafting, a lot of legal work goes into a deal like this. And there are lawyers who are behind the scenes who probably people don't know about because they are not on social media or on TV, but they're doing big things behind the scenes. So this area of the climate change agenda, lots and lots of opportunities, because we are having a lot of firms, international firms, coming into the country, wanting to invest, wanting to set up. For example, Rome Electric, probably one of the biggest foreign investments right now when it comes to the whole environment agenda. For them, they are focusing on e-mobility. E-mobility, another very interesting area, because e-mobility involves setting up of the infrastructure. And the setting up of infrastructure, again, requires a lot of financing. So we are having a lot of companies coming in, a lot of investors coming in with money, wanting to set up companies in Kenya. And if you're very keen, there are so many of these international companies that are slowly setting up doing a lot of good things. For example, now and I'm sure you have seen them, there are these charging stations where these electric bikes, because they use those batteries, once they run out, you drive there, you have an app, the app connects you to a safe box, you pay, so you remove your used battery, You take out the battery, which is there in the box, because once you pay, then the app links with the safe box, and you open the box, take out a fully charged battery, you put your battery there, you close, you put in your bike, and you move off. And that whole idea has been, of course, championed by a private equity investor, venture capitalist as well, combining and coming together, for that. And like I've said, we are eventually going to transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, because I was doing some research, and we actually have probably 50 years of which we shall be using fossil fuels. So in the next years, it will be fossil fuels and cars using petrol will slowly be eliminated. And of course, we need the infrastructure. We need these charging stations all over. Like the way we have petrol stations, we need those charging stations so that electric vehicles, wherever you are, you don't have to worry that your charge will run out. You can be able to charge your vehicle. You can be able to drive from Mombasa to Nairobi, and from Nairobi to Mombasa, because along the way there's a place where you'll be able to charge. So setting up of that infrastructure will require a lot of investment, and it can only be possible with a lot of foreign investment, because for us, these are new things. But in the US, in the UK, in other developing nations, in China, they have really been able to set up proper structures so that electric vehicles, e-mobility is a normal thing, charging stations all over the place. So you see, there's so much potential there, because a company like Rome, before they come into the country, they will need to be guided in terms of how to incorporate a company, how to, get the necessary approvals, how to set up office, how to get the necessary licenses, how to, partner with other local entities. All that is done by law firms. And you'll find that, very lucrative. And the good thing about these foreign investors is they stick with you from the beginning all the way up to the end. So I do know quite a number of good firms and a number of colleagues that are on retainer with some of these foreign firms that are coming into the country to set up some of these green projects. And linked with that is, of course, the change now that we are having from corporate social responsibility to ESG. In fact, today I just saw one of the CPDs being offered by LSK touching on ESG, because it's now becoming more and more of an area that big top companies are now adopting and focusing on, because they are now switching their vision and strategy into one of sustainability and focusing on environmentally friendly practices, reducing costs by ensuring that they have green systems, water saving systems, solar systems, and other policies and procedures that cut down on wastage of paper, wastage of electricity. So big corporate entities have already started. So eventually it's going to trickle down, and we'll have it as part of the compliance regime for companies, because we are really focusing more on sustainability now, more than ever, because we know that resources are scarce. I was giving an example to the morning class. If you look at an institution like Kenya School of Law, at night, if you just walk around, because I've left Kenya School of Law really late, working on one or two things, and you will notice like 75% of the offices, nobody. So you see something like that. If you now, integrate that into policy, so that you ensure that when everybody goes home, the lights are switched off, where lights are not being used. That alone can have such a big impact on your bottom line because it will reduce the cost of electricity in such a big way. Or installing water-saving systems. For example, in the toilets, you have water-saving taps, you have water-saving cisterns in the toilet, and they are there, the technology is there. There are water-saving systems for toilets that save up to 30% of water for flushing. So integrating those kind of, procedures into the policy, into the culture of entities is what we are talking about when we think of ESG. These things actually do have a big impact on the bottom line of companies. And that's why, ESG reporting is such a big thing now, because the big companies are trying to compete to see who is actually doing the most when it comes to environmental, social governance. So this is a new area. Probably 10 years ago, it was something that was not very common. And I know companies like Equity and Safaricom had started this ESG sustainability agenda quite a while back, but now is when it is catching on, and there are very few experts. So governance now is integrating this component. So governance of companies is now starting to take a turn in that direction. And of course, if you're sharp enough and you jump on the bandwagon, with time you'll become an expert in that area, because we don't have a lot of experts. In addition, I mentioned this, we have a lot of private equity, a lot of venture capital that is coming into the country from outside. In as much as we are not doing so well with our economy, outside there are big time investors that want to come into the country and invest in all the opportunities that are here. For example, if you've been following what has been happening with Naivas has now, sold out its controlling stake to a Mauritius firm called IBL Group. And if you Google IBL Group in Kenya, you will see the number of investments that it is making, including acquisitions of farms in the agro business, in all sectors of the economy. They are really taking over a lot of Kenyan businesses. So there's a lot of private equity, venture capitalists coming into the country. A lot of startups are being funded by foreign capital. In fact, it's interesting. Kenya has got the largest percentage of venture capitalists, in the region. And as you can see there, quite a good number of these startups being funded by these venture capitalists. Sandy, for example, although Sandy is right now undergoing administration, it's interesting that a lot of these startups, once they get funding, I don't know what happens, they collapse. I don't know that they now eat the funding money and then they just shut the business down. But we have had a very strange trend in Kenya, having a good number of these very, very good, unique, homegrown startups with very good ideas and providing good solutions, to the society, starting up, but then collapsing a year or two into their business. So again, a very worrying trend, but the amount of capital that is coming into the country for startups, huge amounts. And of course, these startups, again, need guidance, need legal counsel, need legal advice to ensure that they are compliant with all the statutory and legal obligations, as well as providing guidance to all these foreign investors coming into the country and helping them to partner with the local startups. All that are being handled by commercial practitioners and commercial firms. Another area that also very lucrative for commercial and corporate lawyers is secretarial services. The company secretary now called certified secretary. It's another field, very lucrative. And again, you know, very it's a sector, it's an area that is changing, very dynamic, because the company secretary no longer is just the person who sits and takes minutes in a board meeting. Now they are the ones who are responsible for governance. They're the ones who are taking on the ESG agenda in companies. They're the ones who are responsible for ensuring that you know, they mitigate risk. They're the ones who are you know, responsible for advising and ensure compliance of the companies. So they are very centrally placed in the workings or dynamics of the company. And this lady here on the screen, Catherine Maundu, I don't know if any one of you know her, probably one of the top company or certified secretaries in the country. And at one point was the corporate secretary for Safaricom, EABL, BAT, eGuards, and you know, very recently just resigned from Safaricom. But you know, I don't know if any one of you have any idea what the average pay for a corporate secretary is, especially for these blue chip companies. Anybody who can guess how much the average pay is for a corporate secretary in these blue chip companies? Anybody can guess how much average pay?
Around 2 million?
Exactly. Between 800K to 2 million. And, you know, you can imagine this lady was the corporate secretary for around 5 of these blue chip companies. And I saw her interview the other day in the Business Daily. And, you know, she was being asked, why did you resign from Safaricom? And she said she just needed time to take a break from everything. Because you can imagine the schedule, you can imagine how busy you are handling these big boards of companies like Safaricom and the issues that they deal with. You know, very complex and you know, you can imagine very demanding job. But these are the high performers that we're talking about, the young, intelligent, high performers, high productive individuals. I was once the acting corporate secretary of Kenya School of Law back in 2019 when I was the senior legal of the school, and I was also the personal assistant to the director. I'm telling you, that was a time in my life where I questioned so many things because the workload was ridiculous. I used to leave the school on Sunday in the afternoon because we have a board meeting on Monday. And it was so hectic because at the same time, I was still a lecturer, I was still senior legal, I was still personal assistant, and then now I was acting corporate secretary. So I can't imagine what the schedule or the how crazy the work schedule is when you are the corporate secretary for even just one of these companies. But of course, if you're getting paid 2 million, you know, for each company, you will do it. You will find a way of being able to handle the busy work schedule. Whenever you find yourself getting tired and nodding off, you just, you know, check your bank balance, and then you're instantly motivated and you continue, isn't it? But that's just on a light note. Another area that is emerging, the crypto market, digital assets. And this is no longer just something that people hear about or is, you know, a new thing. Kenyans have heavily invested in the crypto market, in digital assets. You'll be shocked. Nowadays, I get calls from referrals where people are asking me about issues dealing with cryptocurrency. The other day, I got a call from a gentleman who lost some money trading in one of these cryptocurrency platforms, and he lost a huge amount of money, and he was seeking advice. But for him, it was a clean con. because he was trading in a cryptocurrency platform. But it's not him who was trading. He would give his money to an agent, then the agent would apparently trade for him on his behalf. And he lost a huge amount of money. You know, by the time he was seeking legal advice, the trading platform had been closed. All the agents that he was dealing with had disappeared and switched off their phones. And that's why right now the government is advising Kenyans, stay away from cryptocurrency trading. There are a lot of cons. It's an unregulated market. For example, that guy, there's nothing that can be done because there's nowhere to start. The agent whom he was sending money was somebody he was introduced to on Telegram. So, you know, that person has disappeared from the face of the earth. You can't reach him on phone. You can't reach him on social media. The trading platform is closed. So all that there is a WhatsApp group of people who are, you know, have been conned, and they're just crying together in that group and sharing their experiences. That's all that there is. But that was a clean con, and this guy lost over 1.5 million trading. So that is also a new area, no regulation, but there are a lot of you know, opportunities in that area. A lot of trading in digital assets now, more than ever. High risk, high reward. There's some people who are making huge amounts of money. But of course, we are moving towards regulating that sector. And with regulation, of course, comes work for advocates and practitioners. But that space, you know, blockchain, AI, digital currency, also a new area emerging. But we have those who have ventured into that space, and now they're doing so well. I'm sure you know Linda Bonyo of Lawyers Hub. She was one of the very few lawyers at the very beginning to marry technology and the law and venture into that space. Nowadays, she's doing so well. She's all over the globe, giving lectures, running seminars, advising partners, doing so much in that space of cryptocurrency, digital assets, blockchain, and integrating that with the law. Right now, probably the top lawyer in the country in that sector alone. And she's doing very well. You know, her Lawyers Hub also doing very well. We actually accredited Lawyers Hub as a pupillage center just the other day, and I was the one who did the accreditation, and I was very impressed by the programs that they have for pupils, including exchange programs, including, you know, mentorship programs, doing so much for the legal profession and integrating law with technology. So that's also another sector that is big, has a lot of potential. And, you know, in the next couple of years, when you guys will now be in the system, will be in the profession, there will be a lot of these issues, you know, to deal with. You remember the other day, the central bank was, you know, going over the possibility of having a digital currency in Kenya, the CDC, the Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC. But of course, you know, that is, you know, something that is undergoing debate, whether it is good for the country or not. Of course, for future, you know, prospects, that is definitely an area which would be quite beneficial and has a lot of advantages. If you're aware, you know, De La Rue, that used to do the money printing for Kenya, actually closed its Kenyan, you know, outfit because the demand for printing of notes has gone down by such a significant amount, because people now use digital, you know, exchange of money more and more and more. People are taking up use of, you know, exchange of money and buying and selling of goods through, you know, digital platforms. So the demand for the paper currency has gone down to the extent that De La Rue closed shop, and they are no longer the ones who print money for the country. So that is a sign that in the next 10 years, you know, paper money will probably be, very, very, very little in circulation, and people will be, using digital platforms to send, trade, buy money, etc. So this is also another area, very interesting, very dynamic, very new. And the good thing about these new and emerging areas, you will not find the old guards there, protecting and keeping, all the, big deals and briefs to themselves. Because back in our time when we were venturing into the profession, it was so hard to break through because there were a lot of these old guards who were the gatekeepers. But now, with a lot of these new and emerging areas, it's a free for all. It's an open field, open game, and that's where you guys can really get in and shine and become really good in your areas of specialization. And to even echo that point further, intellectual property and securitization of intangible assets, also another big space. And talking about finding your space, finding your niche for you young guys. I don't know if any one of you know this gentleman here on the screen, David Kate. This guy was at the Kenya School of Law just merely 5 years ago. And now he's probably the top IP lawyer, entertainment lawyer in the country. I'm sure you heard of the case where Nonini was awarded 1 million for breach of copyright of his song, Wekamu. It was used by this influencer called Brian Mutinda in one of his promotions for a product or something without Nonini's consent. And the lawyer behind that whole case was David Kate. And this guy is just merely 5 years post-admission, but now he is the legal for Sauti Sol, he's the legal for Nikita Kering, he's the legal for some of the biggest entertainers in the country. In fact, if you are to look at his catalog in terms of people he has interacted with and people he has dealt with and people he's representing right now, including Calligraph Jones, the OG, he's Calligraph's lawyer. In fact, Calligraph mentions him in one of his songs and gives him a shout out. And this guy, I remember him in class. He was one of those students who was always asking questions, very focused, very intelligent, very passionate about intellectual property. So for him, he had already identified what he wanted to do. And by the time he was finishing law school, he was already engaged in so many aspects of entertainment and music. Just 1 year after admission, he was already the legal for Boomplay Kenya. I'm sure you all know Boomplay, similar to Spotify. And just 1 year post-admission, and he was legal of Boomplay. And then he was doing already big things with so many people in the industry, Akina Musioka, Akina, Nonini, Sauti Sol, all those guys, handling all their IP and intellectual matters, all their contracts, all their endorsements. And in fact, the day I knew that he had really made it is one day when I was on my phone and I saw his WhatsApp status. And he was in the US and he was there for 1 week. And he had accompanied Nikita Kering because she was signing a deal with, I think, Universal Music or something. And he had gone with her and he was there for a whole week negotiating that particular contract. And, he's my good friend. Hopefully I'll get him to come and give a guest lecture. But you can see the link there on the screen. His story, he shared it in a podcast. There is a podcast by another very good and very, big intellectual property lawyer right now called Mutua Motuku. And he has a podcast called Akili, a Quick One. And, if you watch that video, a lot of good information about how to make it in Kenya School of Law, all the do's and the don'ts, as well as a lot of information of how he managed to climb the ladder and climb the ranks to be one of the top IP lawyers right now in the country. Being so young, of course, but if you watch that video, you'll learn a lot about how he managed to create these networks and managed to build himself and build his career in that sector of intellectual property and entertainment law. So he's doing amazing things. One of my top students and good friend, and I will call him one time to come and talk to you guys. Very good for mentorship and of course helping you guys to understand what it takes to be at the school and what it takes post-admission to become successful in your area, whatever it is that you choose to venture into. So another area that a lot of potential now is competition law. I'm sure you heard of this case where Carrefour was fined 1.1 billion for abusing buyer power. And of course, I'm sure you've probably walked into Carrefour and asked yourself, how is it that they have these amazing discounts on these products? Every other day there is a sale or there's a discount on particular products. And sometimes they have very, very good deals. But it just so happens that the way they were able to, the way they are able to offer those big discounts and have these big sales is that they have been passing that expense to the supplier. So a lot of suppliers have been complaining that to have your products on Carrefour shelves, you have to pay so many discounts, you have to give them so many rebates, you have to pay goodwill, you have to do so much that the suppliers' profit margins was being shrunk to almost nothing. And that's why a lot of these suppliers came together and they went and complained to the competition authority. And after investigating, it actually did come out that they are using their buyer power. And buyer power is simply when you are so big that suppliers have no option but to come to you if they are to sell their products. But because of that and that control and that power and the fact that they are such a big retailing store, they're able to use that to negotiate terms which are a bit unfair to the suppliers by pushing them to the edge to sell their products at such a low price, and therefore benefiting Carrefour because customers now know that Carrefour is renowned for its sales and its discounts. But actually behind the scenes, they have really been squeezing, pushing these suppliers until these guys, went and complained to the competition authority, and the competition authority took action. This is probably one of the biggest fines to a single entity that the competition authority has ever meted out. But point is, competition law is now becoming a big thing. I remember back in our day, I didn't even know there was something like competition law. But now, competition law is a huge thing that influences, the commercial landscape. We have seen debates about how Safaricom and M-Pesa is the monopoly. Those are competition issues. We have seen how, some of these foreign companies are coming in and taking over a particular space to the disadvantage of the local businesses. That is competition law. So it is something that is now, emerging as a really big area, a big factor when it comes to commerce in the country. And if you look at the cases that the competition authority is handling, very, very important cases, huge cases that have a big impact on the economy. And some of the cases that they have been dealing with, for example, the metal workers and the scrap dealers, big case there. The very recent ruling on that, very recent ruling again on the dealings at the Kenyan ports, and how some of the companies there, the clearing and forwarding agents, are using unfair business practices to make money off people importing goods and exporting goods. So competition law right now is becoming a big, big thing. And interestingly enough, a lot of opportunities there. In fact, allow me to share this. Last year, we had a guest lecture from the Competition Authority. And they had come here to talk about the role of the Competition Authority in mergers and acquisitions in Kenya. And you can see yours truly there, standing next to these two gentlemen. And these are the gentlemen who are dealing with mergers and acquisitions at the Competition Authority. And you can see very young guys. In fact, Morris Nzuki was here at the Kenya School of Law just a couple of years ago. But now he's the one who is behind these big cases in handling huge cases dealing with these multinationals and big companies that are involved in mergers and acquisitions, not only in Kenya but across the region. You know, so young guys doing big things. The other gentleman is called Gideon Sang, also part of the mergers and acquisitions legal team at the Competition Authority. And I remember when they came here, we didn't have enough time. Mutula Hall was filled to the brim because the lecture was very interesting and the students had a lot of questions. But the point that I'm trying to make and to encourage you guys and to give you guys some hope is that a lot of young guys doing a lot of big things. And these are guys who are at the law school just the other day. So it's the same thing for you guys. You know, have that motivation, have that hope, have that excitement that there's a lot in store waiting for you out there after you get admitted to the bar. Joint ventures and franchising, also another area that is now very big. You all are aware of these companies coming into the country and setting up franchises all over. You know, as some franchises are setting up, others are closing shop. Debonaires and Steers is now in the process of being wound up. They have been in the country for the longest, but they were hit so hard by COVID and now they're closing shop. But we have other franchises now coming up. If you go to this website that you can see there at the bottom of your screen called topfranchise.com, you will see the dozens and dozens of franchises that are actually just waiting for somebody to, you know, have the right amount of money to buy those franchises. Because a franchise is simply, you know, a license by the holder of a trademark or an intellectual property right, like a brand name or a business idea or you know, a process or a system in which certain things are done in a certain way. For example, how chicken is cooked. You know, KFC has a particular way it cooks its chicken, and that is part of what is the package of the franchise. Once you become a franchisee of KFC, you are given the logo, you are given the brand colors, you are given the processes of how to cook the chicken using specific ingredients. So it is a package in which you are sold all these processes and procedures, as well as intellectual property rights, to be able to open an outlet and sell chicken under the brand of KFC. But of course, you have to ensure that you have all those systems in place so that the chicken that you eat here in Kenya will be the same in taste, in quality, as the chicken you'd eat somewhere in the US, in a KFC in the US. So essentially, there are a lot of franchises that are available for sale. A lot of US-based companies with their products, with their brands ready to set up in the country if you meet the right price. Because of course, all that you have to purchase. You have to pay for the use of the logo. You have to pay for the use of the brand. You have to pay to be given those secrets, like for example, how to cook the chicken at a certain temperature for a particular amount of time, using the right ingredients which they have authorized. So it is a whole package. But if you have the money, you can set up the franchise. And these franchises are becoming very successful and spreading all over the country. And not only these foreign-based franchises, but even local franchises, where you are seeing using the same model, licensing out the intellectual property to other investors who now set up the business under that particular brand name. But we shall look at joint ventures and franchising as we move on, but also another area where a lot of development, a lot of opportunities that lie there. And then, of course, corporate governance. We mentioned this, the realm of the corporate secretary. But there are other areas of corporate governance, including governance and legal audits, that are now becoming more and more popular. In fact, I was telling the morning class that if you are now a certified governance auditor or legal auditor, you will have so much demand that you will not run out of audits to do, because governance and legal audits are becoming now part of the compliance requirements of companies. Like I said, when I was acting corporate secretary of the school, I remember that year we had a governance audit carried out, and the governance audit lasted probably a week, because we had a consultant come in and they did the audit for a week. And at the end of it, they gave us a report and we paid them a cool around 1.2 M. And if you look at what was done, it is nothing, it was no rocket science. It is something you and me can do. So long as you have a legal background and you understand how the corporate structure of a company is and the dynamics behind it, you can carry out a governance audit. You can carry out a legal audit because of your legal background. But you need certification. And the school actually does offer courses for governance and legal audit certification. And if you have the resources, you can make that investment. And at the end of it, you come out as a certified governance or legal auditor. And I can guarantee you that you will have opportunities and jobs waiting for you immediately you flash your certificate. So that's also another area that is developing. A lot of these government parastatals, government organizations, that is part and parcel of their strategic plan and part and parcel of their annual objectives, to carry out a legal audit, to carry out a governance audit, to ensure that they are compliant with all the requirements of a proper good governance structures and proper legal compliance. So again, this is also another area, a lot of potential. Very few people are certified governance and legal auditors. So that is also another area you can consider and think about in terms of adding on to your CV. Again, another area that is now emerging is training. In fact, a lot of these large firms now have a training department. I'm sure you all know George Kashindi, one of the very more prominent lawyers in our county of Nairobi. And his firm now having set up another arm or another department to train. And they are actually doing very well. I attended one of his trainings and it was LSK certified, and you get your CPD points. It was a training on insolvency and some of the new changes in the insolvency sector. And I remember it was online. There were 50 participants, each participant paying 5,000. So within 2 hours, the training with clarity had made 250K. 2 hours. And of course, I was telling myself, the things that were being presented are the same things I teach. And I was saying my lessons are usually 2 hours, but these guys have done it in 2 hours and they have gotten 250K in those 2 hours. So you can see there, even the guys who are training, young guys, young guys like you, post-admission, 1 or 2 years post-admission, and they're doing some amazing trainings. In fact, I would advise you and urge you to look out for these trainings by TCA. In fact, they have a free training coming up, I think, in Feb on these new and emerging areas, parts of the things that I'm talking about, free. So again, also keep track of some of these courses. They are online, they are free. You just register and you receive some training from the experts with experience. Anjarwala and Kana also have the ALN Training Academy. I've attended a few of their trainings, very good trainings with the experts, with the specialists. So that's also another area that some of these farms, big farms, are venturing into to supplement the flow, the cash flow coming in from litigation and practice with now training. So that's also another area where there are opportunities. But in a nutshell, what am I saying? I'm saying that there are so many opportunities right now. In fact, the legal profession has never been as open and laden with opportunities as it is right now. Back in our day, you would either fall into conveyancing, litigation, or family matters, family law, and succession. Those were the 3 big areas that you would either fall in or end up being a jack of all trades and handling all those 3. But now the playing field is so open. It is such a good time to be an advocate right now. Because like I've said, there are no restrictions. There are no the old guards, holding on to the big briefs and, preventing the young lawyers from rising up. Now you can create your own space, create your own niche, be your own boss in your own area of specialization. I'm seeing more and more advocates now specializing in areas that were not seen as areas where lawyers specialize in. I'm seeing financing lawyers who are dealing specifically with financing issues. I'm seeing lawyers dealing with green financing, green bonds, and they are labeling themselves as that. And they are getting jobs and they are getting opportunities and they are doing amazing things. I'm seeing lawyers who are focusing on entertainment and film. A lot of lawyers in the film sector, in the film industry, and there's a lot happening in that sector. If you remember earlier this week, I think it was on Monday, there was a film crew here at the Kenya School of Law shooting some series. And it was a big crew, big setup. And of course, behind the scenes, there are lawyers who are handling the contracts, handling all the negotiations with the actors, handling all the issues with copyright matters, with the script. So much in that sector. And there are some lawyers who are in that industry doing a lot and making a lot of moves in that sector. So undertaking and advising on incorporation, registration of Kenyan companies, foreign companies, and other trading entities, reorganization, restructuring, regulatory compliance and governance issues, insurance and reinsurance, a lot of advocates in the insurance sector. Competition, capital markets, finance, drafting and advising on all types of commercial contracts and agreements, conducting due diligence in the course of undertaking commercial transactions, and providing legal opinions in respect of commercial transactions. These are all, areas where commercial practitioners are venturing into. So again, the top firms, just to mention, these are the top firms that are dealing with those big deals and big corporate briefs. But needless to say, some of the biggest firms, in fact, the biggest firms in the country are firms which their bread and butter is commercial practice. But having said that, For commercial law, we are also offering quite a number of opportunities to students. And one of them is the Copyright X and Patent X courses. If you have checked the website, you will see that there is now a call out for students interested in copyright matters to enroll for the Copyright X program. Hopefully, we shall launch the Patent X program as well. And the good thing about these programs is that they are all free of charge. So that when you come out of Kenya School of Law, you not only have a postgraduate diploma in law, but you also have other added qualifications. Like I remember these students in the last year's cohort, so excited to do this course because it's a course we are doing in conjunction with Harvard. So you can imagine getting certification from Harvard of having completed a course. It's a 12-week course. It's absolutely free. We do a combination of physical classes and online, and then you'll do an online exam from Harvard. And then if you pass successfully, you are given certification from Harvard. We even had professors. We had Professor Fisher, who joined in and was part of a special event that we had for the Copyright X class, where we brought in experts. We had KJ, the Member of Parliament for Dagoretti South, who is the chairman of the Innovation and Technology Committee in Parliament. He graced us with his presence, as well as a few actors in the entertainment scene. We had members from the Kenya Film Board. We had a big event, and we had Professor Fisher from Harvard also addressing us. So it was a very good course, and we are hoping to repeat the same this year. So check out the website, check out how to apply and apply. So I just felt that I should mention that as part of the opportunities that are available. We also have this International Competition Network conference that is going to be held later on this month. And courtesy of yours truly, I managed to negotiate 2 spaces for 2 lucky students, because this particular conference stroke workshop, I think to attend, you'll pay some significant amount of money, but I managed to negotiate to get 2 free slots. So some 2 lucky students will be accompanying me to this international conference, where we will have competition law experts, antitrust law experts from all over the globe. Perfect opportunity for you to get networks, meet people from different countries, and then be able to enlarge your network to the international realm. So a lot of good things, exciting things that are laying in store for you guys, and all of these opportunities, like I've said, are there for the taking. In fact, in terms of competition law, we'll also be launching another free course in conjunction with GIZ, the German International Development Agency, on competition law, on the gig economy. As you're well aware, the gig economy now has become more and more prominent, having a lot of job opportunities that are being offered online on a contractual basis. And that is where the future is going. But you'll find that the gig economy also is a new area, so there's no regulation. And that's why you're having a lot of these people in the gig economy, like the taxi hailing app drivers, the guys who do the deliveries on bikes, the guys who do the content moderation for social media, all these guys in the gig economy. That is a sector that there is no regulation. A lot of these workers are exposed to long hours, exposed to bad job working conditions, poor pay. So that is also another sector that is developing where we don't have any regulation. And the lady you see there on the screen, called Bella Kidogo, Also, another young, intelligent, brilliant mind doing so many big things in competition law. And she was also at the school in 2016, 2017. But now she's all over the globe. She is actually even doing her doctorate in competition law from the Technical University of Munich. And she started by volunteering for a young mentorship program at the Competition Authority. And I think they still have those opportunities where you just volunteer to go there, not for pay, because I know, some of you guys, you have your priorities mixed up. You are looking at pay instead of looking at opportunity. If you remember, that's why there was this big uproar about pay during pupillage. For some of us old school guys, we never got paid a single cent for pupillage. Everything was on us. And it was a difficult time, but this whole issue of you must get paid for pupillage is the wrong approach, because sometimes you are chasing after that small money and then you are losing out on an opportunity that is much bigger, that if you sacrificed for some small pay, you probably get better experience, better connections, and better opportunities. And that's her story. She volunteered for some mentorship program that the Competition Authority has. You don't get paid anything, but you get taught. And it's there that she developed an interest in competition law, eventually applied for a scholarship, got a scholarship, fully paid, and now is lecturing in Germany in the Technical University, amongst other universities. I advise you to follow her on LinkedIn, and you see the work that she's doing. She was supposed to come and give a physical lecture, guest lecture, but she's flying out of the country at the end of the week. So we will arrange to have her come during the year. But we are working in conjunction with GIZ and her to offer this free competition course on the gig economy. I shall be updating you on how that will develop in the course of the term. So we shall also have a hybrid where we'll have the physical and the online to roll out that course. So I'm in the backgrounds working on the modalities for that. But I advise you to go and check out on LinkedIn. She's doing a lot in the competition law sector, and you will see how big and how important competition law is and the opportunities that lie therein. So follow her on LinkedIn, and you'll see the amazing things that she's doing. So what am I saying? What have I been trying to say this whole entire period? Number one, everything is about attitude. Like I said, I don't know why commercial law has a bad rep, but when you really analyze what students say, you'll find that it's just mere rumors, false information and all that. Commercial law is probably one of the most interesting out of the 9 subjects because of the opportunities, because of the emerging areas, because of how dynamic it is, and because of even how lucrative it is in terms of the opportunities that are available. So what I would like to say is that, I'm hoping that I've managed to change your mindset. I'm hoping that I have given you a glimpse of the opportunities in the exciting new areas that are now emerging. I'm hoping that you will be excited about this course, and the excitement will be such that you'll even be doing research out of your own volition and really focusing on growing your knowledge in that particular sector, in that particular area. And hopefully, once you are admitted to the bar, you will specialize in some of these areas and probably, end up being an expert like some of the people I have mentioned here. So I want to finish off by just sharing with you something very small that I read by a Professor William James from Harvard. And he says the following things, and mark these words. He says, let no youth have any anxiety about the upshot of his education, whatever the line of it may be. If he keeps faithfully busy each hour of the working day, he may safely leave out the final result to itself. He can, with perfect certainty, count on waking up some fine morning to find himself one of the competent ones of his generation in whatever pursuit he may have singled out. So, in a nutshell, we are saying that all these things that I've mentioned, if you put focus, if you have passion, if you have determination, you will eventually find yourself as one of the competent ones in that particular realm, just like some of the guys I've shown you. So I hope that quote gets you thinking. I hope this introductory class gets you thinking, gets you motivated, gets you excited, so that now as we are moving on, we will do so, with the right trajectory. Now, having said that, do we have still time left? What is the time here? 5:44. I would like us to very quickly look at the course outline. Yes, it is. So let me share. So I'm hoping you can see that. So this is the course outline. I want to go direct to the topics. So commercial transactions has 7 major topics. Originally, there were around 10 topics, and there was a lot of complaints that, oh, this unit is too wide, too much to read. So, like I said, we did a lot of analysis of the topics, and we managed to reduce them to 7. So we shall be looking at processes and procedures relating to companies and partnerships. So ideally, we'll not be going through companies all over again, but we shall be focusing more on processes and procedures, as well as partnerships. That is probably the largest topic out of the 7. A very important topic, not only just for purposes of knowledge, but also for purposes of the bar exam. If you've been or had an opportunity to look at the past papers, you will see companies and partnerships is the most examined topic. Then we shall look at mergers and acquisitions, insolvency procedures, financial services and payment systems, commercial agreements, movable property security rights, and then tax procedures in commercial transactions. So this outline, I'll share it with you because it now has the breakdown of those topics into their subtopics. So I won't go into that for now. What I want to do now is to share with you a link. This link will be very, very important for you because it will have all the resources that we'll be using. And I shall be updating those resources because, like I said, commercial transactions so dynamic. Every other day there's something new. And if I want to share something, I will always be uploading it there. Let me get you the link to that. I will share it in the chat and I'll also share it with the class rep. So 1 second here, let me just get it very quickly. Is here. So if you go to your chat, you will see a link. Please copy the same. That link will take you to a shared folder. And right now it's still a bit empty, but it will have 7 folders for each topic. And I shall be populating those folders with resources, cases, videos, and everything that I feel is important that I want to share. So right now you have a folder for the introductory class, which has the presentation I have made and the video, the YouTube video that I was talking about of David Kate and Mutua Mutuku. You can find it there. But more importantly, folder number 2, labeled the MPSR. That is the first topic we shall start off with. I want you for your first assignment to go into that folder. When you click there, you will see a subfolder labeled articles. When you click into that folder, you will see quite a number of articles, but I want you to read one particular article called The Power of Collateral. The Power of Collateral. It is a very short article, I think around 2 pages, but it will form the basis of our discussions in the next class. And take some time to read it. If you have time, look at the other articles as well. And the first topic which we shall start off with is the movable property security rights. It is one of the most simpler topics. It's a good beginning to give you a good understanding of movable property and securitization of tangible and intangible, property. And it's usually a good place to start to build up to the more difficult topics. So again, the instructions are go into that folder. You'll see 2 folders, the introduction folder with what we have discussed today. Then you'll see folder number 2 labeled MPSR. Click on that, go to the folder labeled articles, click on that, look for the article called The Power of Collateral, read it, think about it, and then we will come and pick up from there in the next class. We shall subsequently discuss all other things, including project work, orals and all those things in the next class as we now ease into the first topic. So can you see the link? Who has been able to access?
Same.
Yes, been able to access it.
All right, thank you. So, and I know subsequently people will be asking me, oh, this shared folder, where is it? Where did it come from? So I'm hoping that everybody's here has heard. There is the link, it is there. If you can't access it, talk to your colleagues who have been able to access to share. Look at that particular article that I have said. So I beg to stop there. Any comments on the first class? All right. No comments. I can see Stea Omolo, Celine saying informative. Good. Kirui Kipiegon, you have something to say as we wind up?
Yes, Mwalimu, it's been a nice class and very informative, and we are looking forward to the 9 Ps and a pass specifically in commercial transactions. Yes.
Yes, from your mouth to God's ears. And I'm hoping, like I said, we'll have the highest pass rate ever. I'm very, very, very psyched about that. That will be my objective, and I hope to push you guys so that, we do away with that old notion that commercial is the most difficult. We want to be the best in terms of the 9. So I'm hoping that everything will go well. We have started off on a good footing, and what starts well ends well. So let us stop there for today, and let's meet next week. Have a good weekend and take care.
Same to you.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwalimu.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Mwalimu.
Goodbye.